Welcome, everyone, to a very special episode of Nerd News Cafe. You demanded it. We're bringing it to you. This is our Stranger Things 2 reaction show. Here we are. We're broadcasting live from the Upside Down. And with me today is a very special guest.
Matt.
No, Matt is not here. Instead, it is a returning champion, my daughter, McKenna. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You can still call me Matt.
Okay, we'll call you Matt, and that'll be fine. And she is wearing her Stranger Things shirt today, so very
Man,
appropriate.
So many spores down here in the Upside Down.
Over there choking and barely able to breathe, that is Landon Doan, broadcasting live from his separate tunnel of the Upside Down.
Man, I thought allergies were bad in Tennessee. They are way worse in the Upside Down Tennessee.
No kidding. So I'm glad you say that, because every single time I see them walking through with all those particles flying through the air in the Upside Down, I'm like, I'm glad they're putting those handkerchiefs over their face, because I'm like, man, can you imagine sucking that stuff into your mouth or down in your lugs? Oh, God, that can't be good for you.
It reminds me of drinking like a glass of water and chunks of food is floating around in it.
Yep.
You don't want to drink it.
Like when they bring you a glass of water at Waffle House.
Oh, gross.
Well, Stranger Things 2 came out just in time for Halloween. You've had a few weeks now. I should warn you before we even get into this is going to be spoilerific. So If you have not completed your viewing of Stranger Things 2, then you might want to sit this one aside and come back later. But if you have, I hope that you will play along with us and enjoy regaling the tales of what was an awesome, awesome sequel to Stranger Things. And I guess now it's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Since there's a Volume 2, you have to call it Volume 1. So now that we have Stranger Things 2, if we have to refer back to Season 1, just call it Stranger Things 1. It'll be fine.
I'm okay with that.
Just roll with it.
Sounds good.
So, guys, where do you want to start? So I think we can go in a lot of different directions. I think one of the things that I want to talk about are the new characters in the new season. A lot was riding on it for them, because they had to feel some pressure coming into an established show that had such a great fan reaction. There was, a chance that people would really kind of reject them and be like, who are these people, trying to come in and ruin my fun in Hawkins. But I really think I can't think of a single one of the new characters that I didn't like. Whether you talk about Max, whether you talk about what's his name, Brett Gelman, the detective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was good. Paul Reiser, Billy.
Oh, Paul Reisner was great.
Bob. I mean,
Bob Newby, superhero.
You gotta love Rudy. I mean, all of them. And I think McKenna's over here shedding a single tear as I mentioned Bob's name.
Poor Bob. He deserved better, and Joyce did too.
Yeah.
Like, let's start with Bob right there, because it's like, I mean, you do mention they introduced a lot of good new characters, with the exception of Lucas's kid sister. I am not a fan of her.
What? I love her.
No,
She's so mean.
She needs to stop being a punk and give Lucas his walkie-talkie. It is a code red, everybody. But like, Sean Astin's performance as Bob Newby was so good. Like, and it's come out since it's been posted online. The Duffer Brothers originally, they were going to kill Bob off early on in the season, like episode 3, episode 4. But because Sean Astin brought so much to that character, they rewrote it to keep him around. And his heroic sacrifice just talking about it, I'm getting chill bumps. And it was so good.
So I have to admit, both the wife and I, as we were watching through season 2, we kept saying something's up with Bob. He was too nice. Yep. He was too wholesome, and we just kept thinking, this guy's a plant. He's got to be an FBI agent. And so we were convinced the whole time, right up until his death. And I feel bad. And now I feel like I need to apologize, Bob, rest in peace, that I never believed that he was on the up and up. I never did. He was too nice. He was too perfect. And it turned out I was wrong. I'll admit it. I was wrong. And it was pretty heartbreaking. His demise was heartbreaking. But I got to tell you, when he So when he escaped and it looked like he was in the clear from the Demodogs, I was like, "You don't stop! Keep going!"
Yep, keep going.
Yeah, and so I knew as soon as he paused and they were having that moment, that reunion moment, like taking a breath, everything's going to be okay. I was like, "He's done."
Yeah, like you are not out of the woods yet. Like you cannot stop. And I'll agree right there with you. He just felt too nice. Like there's no way somebody can be just this nice and this like willing to do anything for Joyce and her two kids, especially in Will, who, I mean, like, let's be honest, if you were dating a single mom and her son was like this crazy, would you hang around? I mean, I don't know if I have that character be like, yeah, I'd absolutely hang out and, try and put up with his, night terrors and stuff. But I mean, like, Bob was so great.
Yeah, and they tried so hard. See, that's part of why I didn't believe that he was on the up and up, because they tried so hard to keep him in the dark about stuff, but he just kept hanging around. To me, it was like he had to know something was up.
He had to know something. Yeah. And he was the one that cracked the code and figured out that these are tunnels. This is, Lover's Lake, or whatever. Yeah. And it goes from Lover's Lake down to, Main Street. He was the one that put together the puzzle. And it's like, without him, it's like, I'm very curious to see how the season would have played out.
Yeah, it's funny that I heard that the Duffer Brothers were actually talking about how at first they didn't want to, and this is actually, if you watch Beyond Stranger Things, they mention this. They didn't want to cast him because they thought that he would be a distraction in the show because he's too big of a name, and it was almost too much of a direct reference to the Goonies, and so they really felt like maybe it would be a distraction. But he was so perfect that they just had to go with it, and like you said, he did such a great job. They ended up giving him even like a bigger role to play, but it was funny to watch him, in Beyond Stranger Things, talk about the moment where he sees the X on the map and he's like, "Oh, X marks the spot. What's there? The treasure?" And it's just like
yep.
such a callback to such a Goonies moment. So I really enjoyed that.
Well, and you mentioned the Goonies, like, he was so good in this role of Bob Newby. I never once thought, oh, this is him just being a grown-up Goonie. It's like, that's how good he was in this character, and you have to give credit to the Duffers. McKenna, I'm curious, you were obviously a big Bob Newby fan. Your thoughts on Sean Astin this season?
I never doubted him.
She didn't.
No.
Wow.
I always thought that he was just someone that Joyce really deserved, and because she's been through so much crap. So I never doubted him, and I also love, because we kept calling him Samwise.
Yeah, we were.
Yep. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't make some Mr. Frodo come with me references while watching it.
No, I just thought I didn't want him to die, and I wanted him to keep going, but I also really want Joyce and Hopper to get together.
Yeah, you were rooting for that too, so...
I mean, you do make reference that Joyce really deserves somebody like Bob, but at the same time, I think every one of us as a viewers is rooting for Joyce and Hopper to finally get together, because it's like they have been through so much stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Even the guy who plays Hopper,
David Harbour.
Basically,
David Harbour,
a fan account for their relationship on the show.
His Twitter game is strong. Go follow him on Twitter. Also, there is a Twitter account for Dancing Hopper, where somebody takes the image of him putting on the vinyl in his cabin with 11 when they're cleaning up, and they cut it to different music. It is hilarious. Go give it a follow. You will spend a good hour just cracking up going through all the stuff.
Yeah, so while we're talking about the new characters, I think we got to talk a little bit about Max, because, man, she was amazing. You want to talk about setting a high bar. The boys, the AV Club in season 1, set such a high bar for their acting prowess and their ability to emote and really draw you in. And Max had a lot to live up to come in and be a part of that. And I think their reluctance to bring her into the AV Club was very similar, probably, to the fans' feeling of, I don't know if you're part of this yet. I don't know if you can be part of the club yet. You're not part of the party. But what did she call herself? The Zoomer.
Yeah, the Zoomer.
Yeah.
And Mike's like, that's not a thing. and she totally proved it at the end of the season. I mean, like that was such good writing. Like a little throwaway line like that, full circle at the end of the season, just so great.
Oh yeah, and she was great, and her story was just heartbreaking. You know, dealing with her brother and the Red Ranger. What was his character's name? It's
Billy?
Billy? Yeah, it was Billy.
Billy. You know, and you had to know a guy that's like this troubled and this messed up and messing with people. Something's going on with him at home.
Something happened. Yeah.
You know, so when it got to that point where we saw that part, it reminded me a lot. And I'm talking about the scene where he's dealing with his dad, and his dad just beats the crap out of him.
That was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It was extremely uncomfortable, but it really reminded me of what Daredevil did with Fisk, how they humanized him, and they showed, you know, there's a reason this dude is as messed up as he is, and he has a pretty, you know, sad past, a lot of baggage, and I feel like they did that with Billy, and so you didn't want to feel bad for him, but you had to. But he was as close to irredeemable as you get.
With the whole thing with Lucas, that was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He assaulted a child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for his sister, God knows what he would have done to Lucas.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Like in a show that has demogorgons and shadow monsters and parallel universes, Billy was the most unbelievable part of this show. Like, that guy has a mortgage, a wife, and 2 kids. There's no way he's a high school senior. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. You're right. I mean, he definitely, he looked like a guy who probably flunked a couple grades, you know. Apparently he never learned how to button a shirt.
Oh my God.
So, of course not. Yeah, all he was doing was smoking cigarettes, lifting weights, and listening to thrash metal, which as a metal fan, I love the fact that we got some old school, like, Kill 'Em All Metallica. That was really sweet. But like Billy is like, come on, man. Like you're in high school. No, like you're 5 years away from AARP.
It's true. That guy's adulting already, but man, and I think that the Duffer Brothers talked about how they wanted to have like a human antagonist, and so he was their answer for that in this season, because you're dealing with so much unseen in this show. And I have to tell you, here's another thing. While I still can't claim that I totally get everything that's going on, I do want to admit that about midway through season 2, we're having, you know, we've got like a break between the episodes, and I just admit to the family, I have no idea what's going on in this show. Like,
you're just along for the ride.
I'm just kind of along, and you know this. This is how I view things. I sit back, I consume the entertainment. I don't try to analyze it as I go. But seriously, the whole, I get it's a parallel dimension. I don't know why it's bleeding into our dimension. It doesn't make sense. This mind flayer, it's scary, but I don't know why it's there. What's its agenda? You know, and is 11 responsible for all this? I think you have to kind of ask that question, because as we learn a little bit more about these gifted children that were brought in by, you know, this secret agency, and they were being tested, I feel like she was the one that created the void. She's the one that closed it. So,
yeah, she's definitely the one that opened it.
So she had, you know, she's the one that opened it. I mean, would any of this stuff be happening without 11's powers and you know, the things that she kind of went through and the things she did? And I'm not saying I blame her and it's all her fault. I'm just saying I think the reason that there is this crossover is it comes back to her. So
I mean, season 1, she did have to break through to the Upside Down to go get Will, and I mean, she broke out of the Upside Down again when and then Hopper found her in the woods.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, you don't want to say it's all her fault, and it isn't her fault. I mean, this is the fault of Brenner and his scientists, and, you know, taken over by Paul Reiser's character. But at the same time, this was kind of her mess to clean up, and she was the only one that could.
Yeah. So does it really kind of boil down to this secret group, whatever they are? They identified these kids that have these special abilities. They started testing them. They started torturing them. And then that is really what caused this bleed over between dimensions, because 11 maybe accidentally tapped into it at some point. And that's what started all this?
It could be an X-Men type thing. Yeah. Or maybe see, because I don't know, were they born with it? I never caught on to that.
I think these are like born powers. And it hasn't really explained that. I don't think. I think it's really like they're finding these kids from all, because they take them from their parents, right? And I guess maybe the parents probably have abilities too.
No, because
doesn't it kind of
Eleven's
imply
mom-
that her mom can go to the void?
Yeah, her mom was able to
that's
talk to
right.
her, but at the same time, she could have developed that after her brain was shot to mush.
Yeah.
So
I
I
guess
mean,
that's true.
there's a whole lot of ambiguity.
Ambiguity. I got you, bro.
That word, thank you, I appreciate it. I'm glad one of us talks for a living. But I mean, I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about this show. There are just so many open questions, and it could go so many ways. And I look forward to see where it continues to go, and maybe it'll answer those questions. Because I mean, just by 11 being 11, that implies there have been at least 11 of these kids. And we don't know if 1 through 10 has died. Obviously, 8 got out and is going up to Chi-Town, and so who knows if 6 is living in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and settled down to go work at a factory or something.
Best Buy in Sheboygan.
Absolutely, shout out to the Best Buy in Sheboygan.
No, I think you're right. Well, Landon, I know you had issue with kind of the bottle episode, which wasn't it episode like 6, 5 or
7?
6? It was 7, where that's when 11 goes to Chicago and meets up with 8, and it really was kind of its own little thing. And even the Duffer Brothers, they admit that it really was a side story, but it was part of building the overall journey that 11 was on. I argue that episode was setting up what's going to be coming for season 3 and 4.
Yeah, I think Collie's coming back for the next season at least. Because, like, why wouldn't she? She's coming after her sister because she just left. I mean, she also was terrible. I didn't like her.
Yeah, we did just talk about how we really enjoyed these new characters that Stranger Things season 2 introduced. I wasn't a big fan of 8's gang of misfits, like
No.
like
The Outsiders.
yeah, the outside, and it's like by design. I don't think we're supposed to, but at the same time, it's like, and again, like if you listen back to our previous episode when I talk about this episode, it does tell a story that has to be told to continue the growth of the character of 11, and head to resolving things in season 2, but it just felt like such a just hardcore air brake stop because episode 6 ends with the Demodogs climbing out of the pit, roll credits, and then you fire up episode 7 because oh my God, I have to find out what happens, and we're in Chicago. What happened? And that was honestly my biggest complaint about it. It wasn't necessarily a bad episode. It wasn't necessarily an unnecessary story or anything like that. It just felt like so out of place, especially when it's like, oh my God, I want to get back to the Institute. I want to find out what happens now.
Yeah.
But I will say, when 11 shows up like a baby face on fire to make the save, when the Demodogs come and find everybody holed up in the Byer house, I popped like Stone Cold Steve Austin was coming out to clear the ring. That was
Oh my
so
God!
great.
Oh my God!
By God, it's 11. That's 11's music.
Yeah, seriously.
So great.
It was great. They did a great job with that. There was a moment in that, I'm going to say this is an underrated moment in the season. Right there before 11 comes in for the save, Hopper's looking for somebody who can use a gun. And who is it that steps up?
Nancy.
It's
Frickin'
Nancy.
Nancy.
Nancy's like, give me that gun.
Yes, like,
I
I got
thought-
this.
She was the only one who knew how to use it.
I thought that was pretty awesome. I really liked that.
Nancy and Dustin's character, I think, just really stepped it up this season. And heck, you could say that for every one of the party, for the lack of a better term,
Yeah.
except for maybe Mike. I really felt like every one of those characters not only took step forwards, they took multiple steps forward. I mean, they were just dead sprinting forward. I loved how Dustin and Lucas evolved, and they had the kind of, I like Max, but you like Max. Who's she going to end up with? I loved how Dustin and Nancy really kind of, we've been through some ish, so we're going to hang together. And Nancy finally got justice for Barb. #justice for Barb.
For real, that was really important.
It's a good
I
question of like, do you feel like Barb really got the justice that she deserved?
Well, no. She'll never
sorry,
get
get in.
justice. I'm sorry, Landon.
No, go for it.
I never think Barb will have justice until
I
don't want her to die.
Yeah.
and I hate to agree with you, but yeah, it's like, I mean, there is no justice for Barb. At least her family got some closure,
Yeah.
and they're not gonna mortgage their house so this journalist can come in and look around. And I like the fact that her family isn't going to go broke and continue to wonder what happened to their daughter. But at the same time, yeah, there is no justice for Barb.
No, I don't think so. But I think it was more about closure for the family. So let's talk a little bit about the new pairings we saw this year. We already talked a little bit about Nance and
Dustin,
right? Not Dustin.
No.
no, not Dustin.
Jonathan.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go back and edit every time I said Justin to make me sound like I know what I'm talking
Okay.
about.
So Nance and Jonathan, we talked about that, but I really think my favorite new pairing of the season was really Dustin and Steve.
Ah, yes, my MVP of the season.
Come on.
Steve Harrington.
You-
Oh man.
You want to talk about someone who took such a 180 in going from a dude that you were like, this dude is trash, and now he's like maybe one of my favorites on the show.
No, he is my favorite. Like I
Wow.
straight up am in Team Steve, ride or die, with his John Ralphio hair and his crazy baseball bat with nails in it. I will go to the gates of hell with that guy.
It's awesome, and I think his line about like, maybe he was a crappy boyfriend, but he's a pretty good babysitter.
I never thought he was a crappy boyfriend though. He needs to know that he wasn't, because he was helping Nancy out at the party, trying to get her to stop drinking and stuff. And he got her home safe with Jonathan. And that's not what a crappy boyfriend does. But I love him with the kids so
Yeah,
much.
he is great with the kids, and he and Dustin, I
Oh my
love.
God, yeah.
I love that relationship, just mentoring Dustin along, and how it pays off in the last season or the last episode where Dustin
that snowball
shows
dance.
up with the hair
Yeah.
at the snowball dance. It was
God,
great.
that's so great.
Yeah.
He gave terrible advice though. No.
He doesn't
never-
give great advice, but you know what? The thing is, when you're in that kind of a mentor role, you don't always have the perfect advice. It's really just where it comes from, and I think it's coming from a good place. He's really trying really hard to help these kids, and I think he knows Dustin's trying to find himself, and Steve's like, man, I've been there, I think
Oh, go ahead, dude.
I was just going to say, I think this season, a lot of that's going on with these kids. They're really trying to find themselves and who they're going to be.
They're actually talking about how the next season's going to be more of a coming of age season for the kids, because they're what, 7th grade? Because I know
I
they're
think that's
still
right,
in middle
7th
school.
or 8th grade, yeah.
So
Yeah,
they'll be-
7th, 8th, yeah, that area.
So they'll either be going into high school or going into 8th grade. So that's really the time for kids. Whenever they're trying to figure out
They're going through a
who
lot
they
of change.
are.
Well, even if you look at Stranger Things 1 and compare it to Stranger Things 2, especially with Dustin, he grew up a lot between the two seasons.
See how tall
vastly,
Mike
yeah.
got?
Yeah, Mike.
He found teeth.
Yeah, right. He got teeth and found a growl too.
Oh, a purr.
Yeah, that was so great.
Yeah. So that was definitely a lot of fun. By the way, the detective I was talking about was Murray, Brett Gilman.
Oh, yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah.
I thought he was hilarious.
They introduce him right away in season 1, and they pair him up. He's trying to tell Hopper, and Hopper's got you're making no time for him. It's just another crazy conspiracy theory dude. But, as it turns out, Murray plays a pretty integral part to the story. But I thought he was great. I loved him too. And his role with bringing Jonathan and Nancy together was great. Just basically
absolutely.
telling him to cut the crap.
Yep. You must dilute the truth. It's too hard to take straight.
Yeah. Yeah, and he gets his big payoff moment in the end when he gets to see all the federal agents driving away.
He's sitting in
Oh, that
his
was such a great-
chair.
Yep. And I like the fact that it's like you're introduced to that character at the very beginning of the season. He goes away for a handful of episodes. Then the majority of his screen time is in that one episode with him, Jonathan, and Nancy. and then you really don't see him again until the end. But he's still a very integral part of the story, and I like how they were able to spread out these new characters without making you feel overwhelmed. It's like we talked about how everybody loves Bob Newby, but at the same time, this wasn't the Bob Newby show. We really enjoyed Paul Reisner as the new scientist, but it wasn't the Paul Reisner show. It was still focused on the group and their immediate family and Hopper, but they were able to add so much more to what we already enjoyed out of season 1.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. And one of the things that is just an ongoing theme, and I don't know if it's ever going to change. I feel so bad for Will.
Oh, yeah.
That kid has had such a miserable go of it from season 1 and season 2. You were talking about how maybe Mike didn't develop quite as much as maybe the other characters did in 2. I really think it's because he's kind of in limbo. Like for all of season 2, he's waiting on 11 to come back.
He got so like emo.
Yeah, and he's basically put his life on hold. He even admits, like, every night, what do they say, 364 nights or something like that?
365, I think.
Well, that's a year. But
Yeah,
maybe
it was a
that
year.
he sat down with that walkie-talkie and tried to contact 11, and she heard it but couldn't respond. So he basically hasn't developed. He hasn't grown. He hasn't changed because from the moment 11 disappeared, he's been waiting for her to come back. So he doesn't have a spot in the story like everybody else does, and he becomes Mike becomes Will's caretaker. And so
That's a good point. I hadn't even thought of that because I mean he is kind of like his character's on hold waiting for 11 to come back.
yeah. So and then he ends up taking the part of while Will is kind of in his coma state and he's been possessed essentially. By the way, let me say this. They come up with a theory that if they cut off the connection to the Mind Flayer before they get it out of Will, then Will's going to die. I don't agree with that. I don't think he would have. It doesn't make sense to me that he would have because he was possessed. I think it just would have left his body. I get why they wanted to take the precaution of getting rid of the possession, and they did. And man, that was hard to watch too.
Oh, my God.
Oh yeah, like shout out to the character who played Will. Like some of the facial expressions and the way he was able to contort his body, like when he was like fully possessed, and like the exorcism. Again, we talked about how uncomfortable it was, seeing Billy get his ass whipped by his dad. Like the facial expressions alone, like just made my skin crawl. Like kudos to that kid. He brought it.
Noah Schnapp is his name.
There we go.
Yeah, he did
Shout out to
a
Noah.
really good job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when Nancy grabbed the poker from the fireplace and stabbed him, the only thing I could think of was just terrible pain, because that's going to be on his body forever. That's not just a possession thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a scar, but luckily chicks dig scars. So. Or at least Hollywood has taught me that.
Yeah, that's what they'll tell you. What about this? Here's an interesting question. Do you feel like this one? We talked about how coming off the success of Stranger Things 1, we'll call it, Stranger Things 2 got a much bigger budget, and I was concerned that maybe it wouldn't have the same feel. It would be a little different, like going into season 2, and it wouldn't have that kind of like handmade kind of 80s authenticity that it had. Do you all feel like they were able to kind of maintain the feel and kept the continuity going?
I did. Yeah. I thought it was pretty similar to the first one. I feel like they used their budget on the Demodogs, really.
Yep.
Because you barely saw the Demogorgon in the first season because it cost a lot to make stuff like that. So that's what I feel like they used their budget on for the most part. And then the new actors, of course. Mm-hmm. But I felt like it was pretty similar. I really liked this new season, and I didn't feel like put off by it being different. It just felt like a continuation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took the words out of my mouth, McKenna. They I still felt like this was the same show with the same 80s nostalgia feel, but now that they have a budget, they can show more Demodogs, or in this case, Newt. Can we talk about just like Dustin? Like I'm screaming at my TV. It's like, Dustin, you idiot.
Yeah.
Like I love Dustin. I love the growth that his character had throughout this season. But there were multiple times where it was like I wanted to grab my TV and shake it and be like, "You are an idiot, Dustin. What are you doing with
I
Newt?"
could not believe D'Artagnan.
Dart. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, he looked like a newt.
D'Artagnan.
He turned into a newt.
Yeah. I got better.
But seriously, no, I was right there with you. I was so mad at Dustin when he decided to lie about Dart.
Part of me felt, though, that I would probably do the same thing because I hid a box of ladybugs in my room for a year once.
What?
I
never
loved
even
them
knew this.
so much, and I never wanted to let them go. But their pest is really bad.
That's the thing about ladybugs. You'll never get rid of them now, McKenna. So congratulations.
Great. Now that explains the infestation of 2015.
All my fault.
Man, y'all are going to have some stuff to talk about after we're done with this podcast.
We really will. We really will. No, I would agree with you guys. But see, I just didn't know what to expect going in. I thought to myself, well, they've had this success. They're going to get a lot more money, and they could, maybe, I don't know if maybe jump the shark isn't the right term, but basically, I worried it was going to be like a CGI fest.
Go crazy with the budget because they have a budget now.
And it really wasn't. It still felt like it was real practical and handmade, and there was a lot of it felt like a real world they were living in, and yeah, it really did feel like the budget was spent on the Demodogs and the Mind Flayer.
The whole possession part, that was crazy.
Yeah.
I did not like that.
That was another uncomfortable. This season was full of uncomfortable moments.
And okay, another uncomfortable moment was when Steve got the crap beaten out of him, and he wouldn't stop punching him.
Yeah.
And the kids didn't know what to do.
Like, please stop.
Yeah, he was basically getting turned into Hamburger.
Yeah. In real life, he would have brain damage.
Oh, easy. Well, I mean, he does have his John Ralphio hair to protect him, so he might be okay. Like, I've seen some theories online. Do you think, they said Billy was such a unlikable scumbag because people didn't hate Steve in season 1 the way the Duffer Brothers intended him to? Do either one of you think there's any validity to those claims?
I never actually hated Steve. I just kind of didn't like him because I thought he was in the way of Nancy and Jonathan, and he didn't really need to be around.
Well, he came across as a bully for sure.
Well, yeah, but he was bullying Jonathan. That was terrible in the beginning. But it was never attacking kids or speeding or doing all that terrible stuff.
Yeah, Billy was a straight up a-hole.
Seriously, he was a real threat. He was a real evil. I mean, and I feel like they did a great job with really getting the message across that he was a threat to Lucas without going too far.
Yeah, they never called him racist, but it was implied.
You knew what was going on.
Yeah.
He is hardcore racist.
Yeah.
It was really, really implied.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it's like, once they revealed, the abuse at home, it's like, okay, well, I guess I kind of feel bad. But at the same time, with the way he was skeezing on what was it, Mike's mom, I don't think there's any redeemable part of the character of Billy.
I will say though, honestly, not to interrupt you, but that was my favorite Billy moment.
It was funny.
So
like I did not expect it playing out that way. And also, apparently Mike's mom is a whore. But but it's like, I didn't think there was any likable redeeming part of that character. And I was kind of bummed out that he didn't get his comeuppance. I mean, yeah, Max put him in his place and almost, castrated him with Steve's ball bat. But at the same time, it's like, he didn't come face to face once with a Demodog or something like that to be like, what the hell is wrong with this town?
Yeah, no, you're right. But I think I like the way they handled it because I do think but Max had to put him in his place. I think she had to establish that she would, establish her independence from him and stand up to him. And there was, definitely a Pulp Fiction moment there where she jammed a needle into him. That was interesting.
Yeah, that was nuts.
But it was also kind of cool how this dude, he's a tough dude. He's not just going to like go out cold, getting a trank in the neck. So he actually was still kind of aware and there for a minute, to be able to respond to her. And she got to threaten all that he holds dear, basically, with the nail bat.
Oh boy, yeah.
That was a pretty awesome moment.
How long do you think it would have taken him to wake up? Because it took Will a while.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It's one of those things they can use to kind of cheat in storytelling, because basically what it does is it puts him out for as long as they need him to be out.
Yep.
Is essentially what they do. The Duffer Brothers, if you watch Beyond Stranger Things, they also talked about how they use the walkie-talkies to cheat a bit. One of the things Matt's talked about on the podcast before is that if you have cell phones in a lot of situations, it solves the problems that you have. Like
cell phones are magic.
Just a working cell phone would solve so many issues in a lot of these movies that we watch. And the Duffer Brothers talked about that, and they said, well, luckily they don't have to deal with cell phones because they didn't exist really at this time. But the walkie-talkies were something that they could manipulate. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're out of range, sometimes they're in range, And
sometimes Lucas's sister shuts off the walkie-talkie because Lucas's sister is the worst.
No, she's amazing.
Yeah. McKenna, I'm surprised you have this stance because you have a younger sibling, so you know what it's like to have a younger sibling.
Yeah, but I feel like I can relate to Lucas's sister a little more because she was kind of like mean. She was being like, "Oh, shut up!" More like, "Code, shut up." Okay,
Code, shut up.
That's awesome. I was like, "Yes, go."
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna put you guys on the spot. I know we just watched season 2, so you have that kind of feeling of this is the newest thing, and I like it. So I like it the most. Do you think season 2 surpassed season 1 in your mind? Just your opinion, McKenna. What do you think?
I don't know surpassed, but right now I know that I do like it better because of the character development, number one, and the new characters. Mm-hmm. Just it added a little more to it, in my opinion, especially with Steve's character development that I will appreciate until the end because I think he's the father figure that they all needed, like a male figure, because they had none of that in their lives, honestly.
Yeah. They all have absentee parents, basically.
Or like,
yeah, they really do. What's up with the parents in this town? Like the only parent that's worth a damn is Winona Ryder, and you see what happens when you're a parent that pays attention in this town.
I think that Dustin's mom and Lucas's mom also need to be acknowledged, though, because they were so supportive of their children dressing up like the Ghostbusters to school.
That is true. Yeah.
That was a great montage. Mm-hmm. The whole Ghostbusters thing. That was great.
Why do I have to be Ray? Why wouldn't you be Ray? God, that was so funny. I guess in my instance, I am going to say season 2. I prefer it to season 1, but I'm kind of a weird unicorn in this situation because if you remember, when I first watched season 1, I got halfway through it. I'm like, I don't see the appeal. It's cool, but it didn't click with me. Mm-hmm. But I went back and watched it, and for whatever reason, on my second viewing, I was like, oh my God, I totally get why everybody likes this. I didn't have that same experience for season 2, so I was able to be like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is awesome for the ride.
On board the whole time, yeah.
Exactly. Though I do want to throw this caveat out here, and you can answer your own question here in a second, Jay. Do you kind of feel like the character of Eleven was kind of had a disservice this season because she was very important to the plot, but she didn't get a lot of screen time?
Yeah, that's really true. Like she definitely was super important to the overall arc of the story, but she didn't really like. I think my favorite screen time with her was with Hopper in the cabin.
Oh, that was so great. Mm-hmm.
All of those interactions were great. And her psychic tantrum that she threw, oh my gosh.
Hopper dealt with like a ton of angsty teens.
Yeah.
He
really does.
intense.
But But his
and
role,
this angsty teen has the ability to throw stuff across the room with her mind. What could possibly go wrong?
And he
Yeah.
was still yelling at her. I couldn't do it. I would. Like,
I
just
know.
been done.
He stood his ground as a father figure in that situation. Like, I guess really, 11's the only one who has someone trying to be a strong father figure. You know, the other person you could argue, I know this is, I'm taking down a side road here, but the other person you could argue that's like kind of a father figure to the group is the nerdy teacher.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I love him.
You know, and he kind of helps guide the group, and he's there as it's kind of funny. They access him almost like Google. They're like we need to learn a little something about this. Let's go ask the teacher.
I
So
love
To the
that
teacher,
Justin
man.
calls him Milord.
yeah. He's really good too, and he's always, you know, I think he is fully on board, like supports the kids, and he would be there for them no matter what.
And I was going to make that point. It's like I don't know if our listeners grew up like I did, being a Dorcas in high school, but like us Dorcases, we I'm just speaking for myself. But there was always that one teacher that, like, no matter like when the chips were down, you knew that teacher had your back.
Yeah.
Like, and they were there to be your cheerleading section. And it's like, I loved that character.
Yeah, I definitely have examples of teachers like that for me, and yeah, McKenna's
I do
agreeing,
now because
yeah.
I'm a Dorcas in high school.
Yes, one of us. Welcome to the fold.
Yeah. So I think that I definitely, I feel like he played a great role for the kids. But yeah, no, I totally see what you're saying about 11. Like, it wasn't like she was the dramatic lead of this season. You know, she didn't really drive the emotion. She had her emotional moments, like when Papa, her encounter with
That
Papa.
was terrible.
Yeah.
When Matthew Modine
That
showed
made-
up again, it's like, okay.
That
Yeah.
made me like her 8 even less that she would use something like that against her.
Oh yeah, it definitely put 8 in the category of a villain kind of at that point. The way she was,
Absolutely.
yeah.
See, but I feel like she can redeem herself.
I think so. I think she's a misled kind of a kid.
But then again, she killed people, which is also something it's hard to redeem yourself from.
Yeah, but I still think she can. I think she can come around because 11 has killed a lot of people
That's
at this
true.
point.
Yeah.
So I think 8 could come around. And I honestly think that as we go into season 3, and this is kind of where we can wrap up as we conclude our conversation of season 2. But I really think the direction that we're headed is this larger world building of, maybe there are other kids out there, I don't think that the story can continue in Hawkins, like just contained in Hawkins.
Yeah.
Like I go ahead, McKenna.
No, I was just agreeing that, especially with Steve's graduating
Yep.
and
Mhm.
then
That's a
Nancy
great
soon
point.
to follow. So it's like, where are they going to go? Got to keep them. They wouldn't get rid of them.
No,
now.
no, definitely not.
Can't get rid of Steve. He's my ride or die MVP of the season. And it's like the government has gone to all these lengths to just keep this contained in one town. And guess what? The government lost. They had to bail and get out of town. So it would make sense that this is going to grow like on a larger scale, like not just more characters, more cities, more states at this point.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see where it goes. And the way I would respond to the question that I asked to you two is, I've kind of come around, and I really do think, and maybe we should revisit this when season 3 comes out, but I really do think season 2 surpassed season 1. I really think they did it. I think they did it because they managed to tell a new story without jumping the shark. They managed to bring in new and interesting characters. They managed to find a way to take these characters we already loved and develop them in new ways. Like, I think that it's kind of like when we talk about origin stories. Like, season 1 was great, but it was a lot of kind of origin stories, like getting to know the characters and feeling your way out and trying to learn the world. Season 2, they didn't have to do any of that. They'd already set it up, so they just got to play.
And literally, that's how the season opens. They're playing games that straight up Dragon's Lair in an arcade.
Yeah, So
That was so cool.
man,
Or Dragon's Quest.
yeah, before we're totally done, I do want to say one of the things that was really, really fun to kind of watch and dissect as you watch season 2 were all of the references to other pop culture things, not just pop culture, just 80s things in general, but like some of the episodes had such a feel to them that I was like, there were moments, especially when Bob was trying to escape the facility, I was like, we're watching Alien right now. That's what I kept thinking. Like there were some like obvious kind of echoes of other shows, you know, as you watched it and other things. I mean, I know we talked about Goonies. We've definitely got a Goonies element, but it was. I think the nostalgia for that show doesn't just come from the fact that they're using 80s technology, 80s clothes, they're watching, you know, all the electronics are 80s. I think it's that they do a lot of just callbacks and references to 80s pop culture. I mean, like Breakfast Club, you could even reference that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have something to say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited for the next season's soundtrack because it's going to be 1985. And that was a good year for music. Oh, man. And then they can finally, crap. I know it. It's really cheesy. I'm going to remember it later. But tons of good music. Okay, wait. Yeah, I found it. We Built This City. Came out. Starship. Super cheesy. And also Foreigner, I Want to Know What Love Is.
Yep.
And Take On Me came out then.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
That's some strong stuff. Look at McKenna bringing it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was before, like, right when he came up and asked if I wanted to do this, I was flipping through the Stranger Things tags because that's all I do now. I'm so ready for the next season.
Yeah, that's the bummer. We got to wait for what, like 18 months, maybe 2 years before season 3 comes out.
Yeah.
Like, that sucks.
I'm hoping it's going to come out Christmas, maybe, because it's going to take a year.
I wish they could do it every Halloween, but I know they won't be able
That
to.
would be, that'd be great, but I don't think they can push the production schedule to get it ready for every Halloween. So that's why I'm saying they might hold it for 2 years from now, Halloween.
So Landon, were there any moments that really kind of like hit a nostalgia moment for you, or maybe just a clear reference to something that you were like, holy crap, this really feels like this thing?
I guess if there was like a moment that rang my nostalgia bell, I referenced it a little while ago. It was how this season opened with the kids hanging out in the arcade and comparing, you know, who has number 1 on Dig Dug. Oh my God, somebody named Mad Max took my number 1 score. Them playing Dragon's Lair, which by the way, that's the second most unrealistic thing of this entire season. Nobody ever made it that far in Dragon's Lair. Nobody.
You're right about that.
But
But like just seeing an actual honest to God arcade again, it's like, oh, the feels like I was there, man. I was there.
Yeah. I know. And I actually, that's one of the things that I had a chat with the wife about too as we were watching this is when we grew up, you know, watching the AV Club get on their bikes and just go out and have adventures for the day. That's how it was. You guys do not have any clue. My kids, it's unfortunate because we live in such a different world and things are they're just different. They just are. But
they're the worst now.
Seriously. But in the 80s, that's how it was when you were a kid.
Hey, I want to go off and build my own island where everything's the 80s forever.
Can I sign up for that?
Yeah, seriously. But really, I mean, I'm telling you, I would hop on my bike. I would be out running around with my friends for the day. I wouldn't see my parents until the sunset.
Yeah, I can never do that.
Be home for dinner. That's about it.
Yeah.
And if you decide to stay out and play flashlight tag, just let me know.
Mm-hmm.
And then be like, all right, cool. You're in at 12 o'clock. Welcome home. Go to bed.
Watching one of the episodes, well, actually the one where Dustin found Dart, when he rolled up to his house on his bike, it's nighttime. He's rolling up to the carport and he hears the noise in the garbage can. For whatever reason, that one hit me just right in the nostalgia. I was like, I remember doing this. Like I had a carport, I had a bike. I used to roll up like the sun was down. I was like, holy crap, I'm late. I'm gonna be in trouble. You know, like I remember doing that stuff, and that's how it was to be a kid in the 80s. And so they just
and then you found an alien frog.
And then I found an alien frog in my garbage can. But actually, I found a snake a grass snake in my garbage can one time, so it was kind of a
awesome.
similar thing.
That's
But-
even worse.
Yeah, but no, like I think that's one of the things this show does so well is it's for those of us who experienced the 80s, you watch this and you're like, holy crap, this really is what it was like. And I'm so sorry for you, McKenna, because you won't experience it. And now
I'm making myself
can never
experience it.
things can never be as good as they used to be. And I know that's an old
wow.
person
That
thing
right
to
there is
say,
nostalgia.
but that's how it is.
I really feel like we should just apologize to people younger than us because, like, I'm really sorry this is the world you have to grow up
Oh
in.
my god, I'm gonna have to.
At one
fix
point, it was
everything.
cool. I swear.
Yeah, please do fix everything if you can do it.
I'm
Seriously,
trying.
yeah, we need a fixer.
I'm gonna dress up while running for president in a giant pantsuit with huge shoulder pads and tell people that things need to change.
Well, I would
We
have
should
said
go
that
back
was
to
a
the
viable
80s.
option, but 2016 proved otherwise. So. Okay,
That-
well,
that
I've
was a
thrown
better
out my
joke.
MVP. I've thrown out my ride or die for this season. What are y'all's MVP / ride or
Oh.
die for this season?
Good question. I just wanted to say that was an underrated joke, but okay.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
My ride or dies are either Lucas Sinclair or Steve Harrington because they both did so well this season. And Lucas got a lot of crap last season, even though he was really focused on saving Will, not 11. And he did so amazing, especially with the whole Max thing. Yeah. Those
Yeah.
are my two ride or dies. If they leave, I'm leaving.
Okay. I'm going to go with a dark horse. I'm going to say Nancy
I like Nancy. I have
I-
nothing wrong with her.
because I really like her journey. I think that she grew a lot in this season, and I think there's a lot we don't know about Nancy, and I think she isn't given the credit she deserves. And I really feel like I gained a lot of respect for her by the end of it. You know, the whole plot that she and Jonathan had to basically get captured on purpose, that took a lot of balls.
Yeah, it did.
Oh yes, massive.
You know, and her goal was to atone for what she felt she did wrong to Beverly.
Barb.
Barb.
To Barb. And man, I think there's a lot going on there, but if I was going to pick a front runner instead of a dark horse, it would be Dustin.
Oh, I love Dustin too. Man,
So good.
Dustin's the man.
I just love all of them so much.
His moment in the snowball where he was crying because he got turned down by the girls was heartbreaking. And then Nance came and saved
Yeah,
him.
Nance
And then here
stepped
comes your
up.
dark horse.
Yep. So there you go.
So heck, I was totally right. Nancy and Dustin were a thing. I'm a genius.
You were right. You got it.
Hey, if I want to throw out another dark horse, Muse the cat. # justice
Oh
for
my god,
Muse.
please.
Oh yeah.
Hey, what about Dustin's turtle? Whatever happened to him?
That's a good question. I
he
don't think.
got-
And
it.
hey, whatever happened to the guy that they stuck in the fridge? What's Joyce gonna come home to?
Yes, the stupid Demodog is still in the fridge, and oh, by the way, they like it cool. What are you?
Goodness gracious. Well, I think we could go on about Stranger Things 2 forever, but as with everything, good things must eventually come to an end, and so will this show. Thank you all for listening to this very special episode of Nerd News Cafe Stranger Things Reaction. I'll invite you to come back next week when we return to our regularly scheduled programming. Tuesday's normal show, Thursday Stir It Up. In the meantime, you can visit nerdnewscafe.com. You can go to our Twitter, that's at nerd_news_cafe. Visit us on Facebook. You can send us an email, nerdnewscafe@gmail.com. You can find us just about everywhere. For McKenna and Landon, this is Justin Krutzinger. Thanks again, and we will see you on the other side of the Upside Down.